The Florida Supreme Court has ruled that the 2022 ban on abortion after 15 weeks is constitutional and can go forward. Also, this is superseded by the 2023 law that actually bans it at 6 weeks. The Supreme Court further did rule that abortion will be on the ballot in November as a constitutional amendment initiative. So ultimately, it will be up to the voters. Let's talk about it. Hey everybody, it's Dr. David. I'm a board-certified pediatrician in Tampa. I've frequently worked on issues related to medical freedom and choice, and this, of course, includes reproductive choice, a woman's right to choose what to do with her own body. Okay. Also, as you probably know, if you've been following this channel for a while, one of my patients, Deborah, she had a fetus that had a fatal abnormality, underdeveloped kidneys that was not compatible with life. And because this wasn't determined until after Florida's current law is in effect, she was actually not allowed to get an abortion and had to suffer through watching her newborn baby die a few hours after birth. And that was totally predictable. And she could have been prevented of going through all of that trauma, which she still deals with, if she would have been allowed to do what she felt was the right thing for her body. Now, today we're going to actually be talking about two different Supreme Court rulings that are both going to be impacting women's reproductive rights. First of all, the 15-week ban was found to be constitutional. Now, let's have a little summary of how we got here. So, by the allowing of the 15 weeks, but it was put on hold because there was a lawsuit saying that this was a non-constitutional law because of the impacting on freedom of rights from healthcare issues. Again, the Supreme Court said that isn't so. But as I said, it allows the 2023 law that is a almost near total ban, which is because it's 6 weeks, to also go into, and that supersedes the 2022 law. So this is the law, and it will go into effect at the end by the start of May. Now, as you may know, 6 weeks is essentially a total ban. Why? Because most people do not know that they are pregnant at 6 weeks. That means you missed one period. Okay, so way before they would have an opportunity to go ahead and check to know that they were pregnant, it's too late. So it's really a near total ban. Now, they did allow for abortions and pregnancies to be terminated. Pregnancy can be terminated involving rape and incest, but it would only be allowed if, number one, the abortion was done prior to 15 weeks of the pregnancy, and providing that the woman has documentation such as a restraining order or a policy or a police report. So, a couple of things here. First of all, there are women who don't necessarily report things right away. Maybe they're too embarrassed. Maybe because of the community. Maybe it's somebody that's respected in the community. So they're afraid to report things. That doesn't always happen right away. Also, what would happen if a woman was raped and held captive, and she was finally freed? They got her out at 16 weeks. She wouldn't be allowed to have an abortion either, even though she's pregnant after being raped. Now, even though not all women have regular periods, every 4-week periods. There are women who may have a period every 2 to 3 months, so it might not be normal for them, or it may be abnormal for them to not have a period prior to 6 weeks from their first one, which again, that would be banned. So just in that woman, she would have no option. Realistically, she would have to have it because she had irregular periods and didn't know that she was pregnant. Okay, now, besides the exception for rape and incest, the new law does allow for if the life of the mother is in jeopardy, they're allowed to abort also, but it doesn't say if it's a non-viable fetus. So in Deborah's situation, she still would not have been allowed to have an abortion because it was the baby's life that was not going to survive. She went through terrible trauma and pain carrying a fetus that did not have any amniotic fluid because the kidneys were not developed. And it was terrible, absolutely terrible. And she was not allowed to proceed, even though we knew that this baby was not going to survive. Okay, now, Might there be some light at the end of this tunnel? Possibly, and of course it depends on the Florida electorate. But the Supreme Court did say that the right to an abortion will be on the Florida ballot. It's that it does pass constitutional muster, and it will be allowed to because it meets all of the requirements. The law itself says, or the initiative says, no law shall prohibit, penalize, delay, or restrict abortion before viability, or when necessary to protect the patient's health, as determined by the patient's healthcare provider. So, of course, viability means, can a baby survive outside of the womb? To protect the patient's health, that means a patient such as Deborah, even if it was after the age of viability, but it was going to be a fatal outcome, would also be allowed to terminate that pregnancy. Now, it does not change the legislation's constitutional authority to require notification to a parent or guardian before a minor were to have an abortion. So a kid needs to still have consent from their parent or guardian. Now, my take on all this. As I've said before, I understand where the root argument comes from most people who are anti-abortion, and that it typically goes from a religious perspective. It's usually on religious grounds. And I understand that. If one believes that abortion is murder because there is a fetus that has been fertilized, I understand how one would have a serious problem with proceeding with other abortions. And of course, one could take an approach and just don't do it for yourself, right? Talk about it, tell people why you think it is the wrong thing to do, but where does it cross the line to affecting another person's life? And I think that that's a fair question. That's really what this ballot initiative is going to be all about, okay? But also, let's remember, many people, including many Christians, but of course in the Jewish faith, in the Muslim faith, and many people who don't follow religion, they don't subscribe to the belief that life begins at conception. So that's what how the laws are really being based on. And the concern, of course, is that without allowing this to happen, even the personhood law, even that we're seeing being passed in other states, would mean a complete ban, not even at 6 weeks, but from day one of conception. So again, the question is really, does a woman have autonomy over her own life, over her own body? Okay. And from my perspective, I look at this as just an extension of my overall belief in medical freedom, choice, and autonomy. And I've talked many times about this. But if you believe in medical choice, if you believe in medical freedom, if you believe that government should be out of the health and out of the bedrooms of people, then one should support the allowing of reproductive rights for women to make their choice on their own. Okay. Now, 60% is needed for this to pass. Okay. And the numbers are close right now. And of course, as this comes forth, and now that this has become, more people become aware of it. And so obviously on both sides of this argument. So this is going to be a very, very big issue for the upcoming election, which could realistically impact other parts of the election. Because obviously the people who are elected in are the people who are going to be enforcing these types of laws or writing new laws. Now, if this is an issue that is important to you, do something about it. Vote. The most important, most powerful thing that you can do is vote. But in addition, you can support groups that support your beliefs on this issue, and they're easy to find. That's out there. But speak out, be an advocate, support for what you believe in if this is that important for you. Anyways, I know that there's going to be a lot going on between now and November about this, and hope you have a good day.